Hello and welcome to Rock Studios at Automation Fair 2026. My name is Stephen Nguyen. I'm the Global Industry Lead for Secure Digital Operations in Automotive, Tire, and Battery. And I'm joined by Bill Zerolf, the Sales Director for Circulor, one of our partners, and the Battery Industry Lead, Stephanie Van Kirk. Today we're talking about enabling supply chain transparency and the digital product passport for batteries and tires. Thanks for being here, Bill and Stephanie, and thanks for your time today.
No problem, good to be here.
So Bill, to start, set the stage a little bit about the digital product passport regulations hitting the battery and tire industry. We're starting off with a strong three-parter here. So the first one, when do manufacturers need to be fully compliant with DPP regulations? What are the risks of non-compliance? And when should manufacturers start implementing a DPP solution?
Great, thanks Steve, it's a pleasure to be here. Stephanie, always great to see you. The EUBR, the EU battery regulation is in place, and OEM and battery manufacturers need to be able to produce a battery passport for any batteries put into service February of 27 or after. The law states for OEMs, for cars, trucks, light-duty trucks, even golf carts, go-karts, so any battery over 2 kilowatts requires a battery passport February 27 and after. The time is short because if you think about it, those batteries will get put into vehicles, again, or golf carts or go-karts, probably in the Q4 of 2026, and then put into market in 2027. So the timing is relatively short. So Steve, to your question, the manufacturers need to get started soon, if not now. It's complicated. Upstream supply chains are very complicated. There are many actors and suppliers in the process of manufacturing cells and batteries. So it would be a now time. The risk under the EUBR, OEMs or people that put batteries on market that don't have passports risk loss of market. Loss of access. You won't be able to sell your product in the market. There are significant financial penalties, and just not being able to do business in the country. So significant risk under the EUBR. Steve?
Thanks, Bill. The urgency is clear, and as a manufacturer, my next question would be the how. How do we implement this today? So my next question for you, Bill. How does the combination of Rockwell's manufacturing expertise with Circular's traceability platform, how does that help manufacturers digitally transform their supply chains today?
Yeah, good question. One of the benefits of the partnerships and the reason we work together with Rockwell, if you think about it, Rockwell sells systems, services, solutions that operate everything inside the factory, inside the four walls, in their state of art solutions, including all the new robotics. What Circulor does is captures all of the data outside the four walls. So if you think about all of the materials that flow from the original source, the mine, in the case of a battery, a cobalt, lithium, nickel mine, through the different processors before those materials arrive at the factory. So in this case, cells might arrive at the factory. Rockwell systems take over through the packing and assembly of that battery. So it's a beautiful combination. The other thing that a huge benefit of the Rockwell team is they're a worldwide footprint. We have customers all over the world. Volvo is a flagship customer, Ford Motor Company, General Motors, Tesla, and then in Europe we go through a whole rank of ACC and BMW. So it's important for us to have a worldwide footprint of service companies and technical experts that the Rockwell team has.
Thanks, Bill. So they say industrial data is the last untapped data source in this data economy, and it's really great having partners like Circulor to extend that reach into the supply chain. Can you give us a concrete example of where customers have used this Rockwell plus Circulor message and are implementing today?
Sure, absolutely. So gentlemen, CEO of Aculon Energy presented at the conference yesterday. They're a state-of-the-art sodium-ion design battery manufacturer in Ohio, and they're taking their technology and providing it for industrial equipment, which is a new use case. So you think of a warehouse, right? No longer we're going to be any diesel or gas-powered engines in a warehouse these days. So they're electrifying forklifts, they're electrifying scissor lifts, booms, and whatnot. In this case, we're producing the battery passport with our SaaS software. Rockwell is implementing by connecting our software to the upstream supply chain, and then the Rockwell analyst will look at the data and help Aculon make strategic sourcing decisions. So, for instance, is this the right type of supplier to use? Is this the right type of chemicals to use? Are they right in the world? What's the production volume? So there are a lot of analytics that can be produced around the data that we provide, and we leave that to the Rockwell team and their expertise.
Thanks, Bill. It's always great hearing the real applications of seemingly futuristic products. Steph, we talked a lot about compliance. Are
Yes.
there additional benefits outside of compliance that our viewers should know?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's one of the things that we haven't really talked about. And we're really shifting at this point from just reactive reporting to more proactive kind of reporting. And a lot of that has to do with traceability, being able to give manufacturers a little bit more leverage than they used to in the past. So that comes in the form of supply chain resilience, risk management, and brand reputation. So with respect to supply chain resilience, you can see a lot of the material origin, transit paths, and the processing steps at a much more granular level to catch disruptions before they even happen for production, and whether there's a geopolitical issue that might be impacting some of that supply chain logistics bottlenecks or supplier substitution that has to happen with that manufacturer. And this visibility really lets that team pivot early and keep throughput stable. With respect to risk management, the regulatory landscape is really more complex. Again, I kind of alluded to some political changes, and so like things like the prohibited foreign entity restrictions, critical mineral rules, digital product passport requirements, and Bill definitely talked about that a little bit. And there's parallel frameworks that are emerging across Europe and Asia. This traceability really lets you verify compliance instead of just hoping for it. It actually gives you that backbone for it. So this includes everything from labor law exposure to emissions accuracy to mineral provenance. And lastly, on the brand reputation side, when I did a webinar with Aculon earlier this year, we really talked about supply chain transparency and really being able to give that comfort to customers that the material origins that are going into those products are where they claim to be. So companies like Lucid are also already using traceability-backed data to differentiate their products and reinforce that trust with the customers. So there's a lot of applications beyond, a lot of benefits rather, beyond just compliance.
That's great, Stephanie, thank you. So I heard a lot about supply chain resilience, risk management, brand reputation. That's great, thank you. So with digital transformation, one of the, failure points that we see with our customers is not planning out, scalability, as well as, the integration portion of these digital projects. Bill, can you talk a little bit about how the Rockwell Circulor ecosystem helps out with the scalability and integration that some manufacturers are facing today? Yeah,
absolutely. So as I mentioned, if we're talking batteries, but traceability also applies to any product. We're doing aluminum projects. We're doing traceability around tires. There's the EU DR deforestation regulation. And so it applies to many products, but if I use the example of battery suppliers are around the world, right? Mines are all the way from the DRC to Chile to Australia, Canada, et cetera. Processing, cobalt, nickel, lithium processing, again, is all over the world. So a company like Circulor needs a global footprint. We need a partner that has a global footprint and can put boots on the ground all around the world to serve a particular customer. The other thing that has to happen is we need a team like Rockwell that's nimble and intelligent around supply chains, because about 30% of the suppliers in a supply chain will change within every 18 months. So there's a frequency of changing suppliers, whether it's the actual source of the mine or whether it's one of the processors in the midstream. And then at the other end of the supply chain. So back to the factory, we need to work with experts like Rockwell to connect our data into the Rockwell systems. And one of the use cases that we're finding valuable is, say there's a defects, maybe a battery, right? Battery failure, defect failure of a battery. Certainly all the Rockwell systems can find out what the cause of that defect is for the processes of assembling that battery or cells in a factory. What Circulor now brings to the table are all of the material flow data from outside. So maybe it was bad cobalt, maybe it was a bad batch of nickel or lithium. Now between Rockwell and Circulor, we have control of the whole supply chain, all of the materials from source to end product. And with the analytics of the Rockwell systems, we can analyze the fault of those, source of those defects. So that's a concrete example of the combination
Thanks,
of
Bill.
the two companies.
That's really enlightening. So, Stephanie and Bill, if you want to add comments, we talked a lot about EU regulations. You know, how does a platform like Circulor, you know, with the Rockwell ecosystem, help out with some of the more, you know, NA North America incentives like 45X? So, how are battery manufacturers adapting to new chemistries and technologies, and adapting product development and manufacturing strategies using something like this platform?
It's a really good question, and I know that you know, there's been a lot of concern regarding what the impacts were going to be with the One Big Beautiful Bill Act back in July, with respect to how that impacted 45X. So teams are launching new chemistries, designing with compliance built into it, and that's just the nature of the industry right now. There's just a lot of movement, it's very dynamic. So being able to validate mineral sources, checking what that prohibited for an entity exposure actually looks like, and aligning early with IRS eligible pathways are going to be really important for that 45X credit. Plants are upgrading their digital backbone to capture reporting emissions and provenance for the materials that they're using in the facilities. And for 45X and for Digital Product Passport. So all of this now aligns also, which is kind of a big bonus, with the G7 Critical Minerals Action Plan. So there's a lot of alignment, there's a lot of going on for critical minerals, which is setting the tone for more diversified and transparent mineral sourcing. So you're able to really connect that digital thread, and you strengthen both the eligibility and the efficiency of that data information, yeah.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Yeah, if I can add on. So,
please.
What we see happening a lot in EU and in the US is companies are turning towards responsible manufacturing. So it's not always driven by a regulation. Responsible manufacturing means knowing what's in your product, knowing the materials that are in your product, knowing the labor sources that worked on components of the product, know the regions of the world that parts or materials or critical minerals came from, and at the end of the day, you're putting your brand on the product. The other thing is making everything in America today. So part of under the new administration is tracking materials that flow and aren't caught by Customs and Border Patrol, for instance, and because it's all more made in America type process.
Thanks, Bill, and great additional comments. So, Bill, Stephanie, it was great to have you today. Thank you for your insights and some of your, really informed perspective on the topics. Viewers at home, if you have any comments or questions for the team, feel free to leave them below. I guess it's below. We'll see. Or join us at Automation Fair and come to the sustainability booth where we can talk further. My name is Stephen Nguyen. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you, Stephen.
Yeah.